Moving on to your New Jersey Devils case at number 2, if they still have this pick and they hang on to it on draft day. And I have them taking the big Slovakian winger, Juraj Slafkovsky, a powerful winger with some scoring touch, had a great season, full of experiences playing against some top men, and I have him going to the Devils. I think it makes a lot of sense. They're pretty deep down the middle. It looks like it's Hughes, Heischer, and Dawson Mercer, 1, 2, 3, and so I think Slafkovsky fits right in as a pretty good winger that could slide in next to any one of those guys. So I've got Slafkovsky going to the Devils at number 2. I think it'd be a great fit.
Yeah, I'm wearing all my Devils stuff right now because this, in the last few years, is the only time I can really cheer for them is the NHL draft. And I'm with you, Harp. I have Slafkovsky going 2 overall to the Devils. I think it's the better fit for New Jersey. He had a massive year for him last year. He had silver medal in the Hlinka Gretzky, silver medal in the Liga with his pro team, Olympic MVP with most points and goals in the tournament, winning bronze for Slovakia, World Championship top 3 player, most points by a U20 and U18 player. And yeah, like I said, the Devils, they've got a lot of the Logan Coolies. They've got a lot of center depth and undersized skillful players. Well, Slafkovsky fits this major gap for New Jersey in size and goal scoring. Tom Fitzgerald has even said on record that, he made a statement saying he doesn't want too many of the same player. And for me, right away, that kind of cuts Logan Cooley out of the conversation. Now, something that you guys might find interesting, because you wouldn't be reading into this, is that on All About the Jersey, the Sports Nation website for New Jersey, they have been talking about the fact that in a value aspect, maybe Logan Cooley is the best player to draft for the Devils because they've been so good in the last 3 years at developing those undersized players. They have a track record of developing Jack Hughes, Nico Heischer, Dawson Mercer, Jesper Bratt. So they know the formula there. They know what to do with a player like Logan Cooley. And, maybe you develop him and maybe that becomes a trade piece. Maybe one of the other guys become a trade piece because you get a Logan Cooley in return. So the value might be Logan Cooley, but I think the player that makes the most sense for the Devils, and honestly, he's a lock at top 3 for me in Slafkovsky. So I would be most happy if they trade the 2nd overall pick and then Slafkovsky and then Cooley. That's my order of happiness here.
Yeah, well, there's a lot there, Case, and I think we're pretty much on the same page here. You guys both have Slafkovsky at 2, and so do I. You might have been thinking that I was going to take Logan Cooley at number 2 here because what we talked about a few weeks ago, I wasn't the highest on Slafkovsky, and to be honest, I'm still not sure what to think of this player or how to evaluate him. I know he's a big forward who can score goals and impressed at a couple tournaments late last year, but at the same time, I also know that he struggled in the Liga. And if we're looking at a number like Linktr.ee, I know that number is not the end all be all, but his production in the Liga and how it translates to the NHL projected is far lower than a lot of other players in this top 10 that I have here. Like, for example, Shane Wright, his production in the OHL projects him to get about 76 points in the NHL next season. Slafkovsky, on the other hand, 31, and that's one of the lowest of the top 10. Now, I think projections are one thing and actual play is another thing. There's a reason he's climbed up the leaderboard in terms of draft projections over the last few months, and it's because he's impressed on the international stage. But there is still a bit of a worry there for me, and that's why I'm not completely sold on Slafkovsky at number 2. But that's where I have him because I agree, Case. I think it makes complete sense for the team. You've got your Logan Cooleys. You mentioned that. You need something different to add to that top 6. And if you keep the pick, I think Slafkovsky slides in right away as an NHL-ready player. He certainly has the physique to do so. And he's able to do some damage in the top 6 with whether it's Hughes or Heischer or Bratt or whoever they put him next to. I think it makes total sense for the team.
Yeah, so I'm going to refrain right now from talking about why I don't think Logan Cooley should be number 2, because I'll talk about that when I think he should be drafted. But I'll talk about Slafkovsky more and his production in La Liga. Two things that don't worry me about that is he's playing in the Liga. He's not playing in the USHL. Like that, the comparisons of those two leagues is just so far off on the spectrum. And yeah, it didn't go well, but I mean, I also think that the Olympics is better hockey than the Liga. So he did impress in that, although it's a low sample size, of course. But the thing that really I look at more is in his draft interview, someone asked, he said, "You're Slovakian. Why did you go to Finland to play?" And he said, "Well, I personally, and I think a lot of people agree on this," he said his weakness was foot speed. It was his speed. And he said, "I want to go to the Liga because they're faster league. They're one of the fastest league in Europe." He said, "I want to go to Liga and work on my foot speed." So, I mean, that right there is already that's a character thing to me, that he knows his weakness. He wants to work on it. And he was out in Finland doing that, maybe not necessarily working on the scoring as much that he's had in the past. And then when he got to play internationally, that's when he was like, "Okay, time to light this shit up." And boy, did he do that.
Yeah. And like the thing is, he's grown over the year too. Like he's developed into a better player, but it's just hard for me to be completely sold on this guy at number 2 when looking at his production in the Liga compared to a guy like Joachim Kemmel, who had more points than him this year. His NHL-E is around 60 for next year, and he's projected to go top 10 as well after a full season in the Liga. So there's a comparison there, but I still do think he's the best pick at number 2 for New Jersey, or frankly for most other teams who get that number 2 spot. So I think, you mentioned him working on his foot speed. That's fantastic. I don't think it was a weakness, just something that he's not above average at. So that's great that wasn't identifying, something he identified. I think his puck skills are some of the best in this draft. He has fantastic hands, and also he has a great shot too. So if this guy can kind of put it all together in the next couple of years, like I said, I think he's a great fit for New Jersey in their top 6.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say before we move on is, like most Devils fans, I am slightly worried about that pick because of the history of Pavel Zacha and how that turned out. I obviously love Pavel Zacha and I'm a big fan of his, but in his draft position, that size winger didn't really work out for us.
Mm-hmm. Different team now, though. Different team.
Oh, yeah.